What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Sixers Digest YouTube channel. My name is Sean Bernard, and I'm here to talk about yet another potentially unhappy member of the Philadelphia 76ers. No, it's not Joel Embiid. No, it's not James Harden. No, it's not Tyrese Maxey, but it may very well be PJ Tucker. And the reason that we got here is Tucker has been a little bit more outspoken on social media lately, and the one that particularly stirred this up was this post on Instagram right here by PJ Tucker saying, "One day I woke up and I realized a huge part of my problem was me." So who knows exactly what he means by that? Maybe I'm reading too deep into this, but there's been a lot of whispers about Tucker as we have the Harden conversations. The Harden trades have obviously been slowed up based on the recent reports about the breakdown in talks between the Clippers. I do think that negatively impacts the chances of PJ Tucker getting traded. I won't say it has been the dream addition PJ Tucker that I think most hoped when he was signed last offseason, the 3-year, $33 million deal that was given his way. Remaining on that deal, there is now this year he's on the books for $11 million, and then a player option next year for $11 million. But that is a reason why I do think that he is more likely to be traded. Is sometimes in the NBA the contracts have just as much to do with how likely a player is to get traded than them actually as a player. It's the unfortunate reality, and as these Sixers currently sit, after giving the contract to B-Ball Paul, they're a little bit over the second tax line in the way that they don't desire to be, and PJ Tucker is probably the cleanest answer for getting back underneath that. So there's not a ton of those middle ground contracts on the Sixers team. There's obviously Joel Embiid with a lucrative deal. There's James Harden with his $35 million deal. And then when you kind of look down, there's D'Anthony Melton making $5 million. There's PJ Tucker making $11 million. And then there's a lot of the cheaper guys, the Tyrese Maxey, who's still on a rookie deal, Jaden Springer. There's not a lot of that middle of the pack, which the Sixers, those are the most tradable contracts and the guys that they will be seeking to move. So let's take a little look at the trade talks with PJ Tucker here. This was reported by Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. This was a couple weeks ago now, but he said PJ Tucker is another guy who could be out the door and was a key player they brought in recently. James Harden and Tucker are great friends, and remember, Harden gave up about $15 million for PJ and Daniel House to be on the Sixers last season, as I previously reported on Hoops Hype. Tucker has come up in trade talks between the Sixers and Clippers. The Clippers covet Tucker's ability to guard multiple positions and defend the league's top opposing scorers. So I do think that's a little bit strong about it, how comfortable he is guarding the league's best defenders. I don't know if that's the PJ Tucker anymore, unfortunately, but he's still a very valuable player on a contending team. He's a guy that does the dirty work in the way the Sixers that need. And we'll look at his stats here. Stats are never going to be the story with PJ Tucker. Only 3.5 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 0.8 assists. Shot the ball very well from three last year, 39.3%. His attempts went down significantly, a lot lower. That was a cause of frustration by a lot of fans. There were moments throughout the season where he was kind of passing up looks that they just didn't need him to. He looked a little bit gun-shy in a way that I have not seen from him throughout his career. He's a guy that has a ton of respect as a veteran around the league, and he didn't quite deliver to, I think, what most hoped, but he was still a valuable part of this team. And when talking about this, I wanted to bring up the one play that to me signifies PJ Tucker's just status on the Sixers team and why he is so necessary from a leadership, from a mentality standpoint to all of these guys, and that is this play against the Celtics. So this was in the playoffs here, as the Sixers obviously were bounced by the Celtics in the second round. There was a moment with the game winding down where PJ Tucker made a big-time and one, hit the free throw, and got in Joel Embiid's face. So I wanted to play this right here.
6 on
you
the
see
clock
that we're
for
going to ignore
Harris.
the Tobias Harris air ball that sets this up. The PJ Tucker being in the right spot, getting the lane, getting the crowd pumped. Dr. J looking on, and look at this, 106 left in the fourth, a one-point game with the Celtics lead. This is a big-time play. And he marches right over to his superstar, Joel Embiid, and tells him that they need him to take over. That is why PJ Tucker is here. He's there to stir up the pot, to show some leadership, to show some fire, and frankly, that is very necessary on the Sixers team. Too often they seem like a team that rolls over, and a lot of that comes from the leaders, from the Joel Embiid, from the James Harden. Both of those guys have some bad characteristics and bad habits when things are not going right throughout the course of the game. So having a PJ Tucker to kind of light a fire under guys is necessary. But from a trade perspective, there's also the limitations in Tucker's game. That if you can get an upgrade, maybe a guy who's a little younger, a little more athletic, the Sixers roster has lacked athleticism in a massive way. And that would be, to me, kind of a target. More of a true versatile 3-and-D guy. As great as Tucker is from all the mentions that I reasoned, he's just limited at this point. I mean, he's 37 years old. He's a guy that is well past his prime, and it's a downhill trek from here. And that's a lot of money to be paying a guy who I do respect that he suits up on a night-to-night basis. He's not a guy that's taking off time. He played through a dead hand for a good portion this season that he said he had trouble feeling his hand, which I can't believe they didn't just shut him down for a couple weeks at least to get some mileage off his legs. But Tucker is a guy that battles through, and that's part of his charm is that he did that so he could reach that point in the playoffs. He wanted to prove that I did the hard work in the regular season, that I didn't turn my back, I did not quit, so I have the right to get in your face right now and tell you that you can't either. And these Sixers do need that. I do respect that out of Tucker. It is disappointing that it does seem like he's not the happiest. I think the James Harden news is the biggest story and the biggest. We'll see what happens from there. PJ Tucker specifically is a guy who is much more valuable on a team with James Harden than he is without him. They're two that have a ton of chemistry from their time playing with each other. And from a stylistic standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. You see the way Tucker comes up, set screens for Harden. They know where they want each other. A corner three guy, catch and shoot guy. Those are the type of players that James Harden maximizes, and that's what PJ Tucker still is, even at this point in his career. So I still just, as much as I search through things, I can't imagine the Sixers are going to talk themselves into running this team back completely after failing to make it past the second round for the 22nd consecutive season and the entire time of the Joel Embiid era. So as I look for trades, I do think PJ Tucker is a primetime candidate. And I will say I do know a friend of mine who was out in Vegas during Summer League who ran into PJ Tucker. He did ask PJ, so you coming back to the Sixers next year? And it was not an overly optimistic answer, but PJ Tucker did hit him back with a as of now. So we will see what happens from there. I don't know. There's a lot still to be had with this team. As much as there's talk about it being a championship contender, that's a good part of the sell for bringing James Harden back, that they believe with Nick Nurse, with a couple subtle changes, that they can take that next step. I just can't see the fan base buying in as a whole. And I can feel the frustration on my end. I can see it from everyone else, that it's just like we know how far away we are. Yes, that the Sixers were really one quarter away from going to the Eastern Conference Championship and then facing off with the Miami Heat, and who knows what happens from there. But it just feels so much further. And I think that lack of progress is really starting to eat at guys, and PJ Tucker has not been able to take them over the edge in that way. So it is time to get creative. It is time to think outside the box, and he's a moving part that can kind of get some of these deals done. That's also a reason why I think a Tobias Harris trade is extremely necessary. As much as there's the talk about the about the James Harden trade, and as much as there is the appeal to letting Tobias Harris contract expire and just straight up getting the money off the books, there's been a lot of talks about the appeal of having the cap space game plan, where you want to just spread out cap space and attack free agents next offseason. To me, that's too big of a risk, and I think it's important to maximize this season. Get a return for Tobias. Even if it's not a quote-unquote better player than Tobias Harris, getting a better fitting player could maximize this team. Think about a Buddy Hield. That's a guy that you can juggle and flip some things around and make the salaries work. We've heard about the Pacers talking about the need for a power forward. That's a trade that would make sense to me. And Buddy Hield, while he might not be individually as great of a player as Tobias Harris, I do think Buddy Hield is a guy that would maximize this Sixers roster playing next to a Joel Embiid, a Tyrese Maxey, a James Harden possibly. So those are the type of deals that I could see happen. And I frankly just think they're almost a must to get these Sixers more interested, or Sixers fan base more interested in the upcoming season. So we will continue covering it on here. Hopefully I have no more disgruntled Sixers to continue discussing. It feels like it's more and more every day. There's going to be plenty of rumors, plenty of reports. Thank you all to all you guys for tuning in. Make sure to drop a like on this video, drop a comment, give me your thoughts, ring that bell, make sure that you're getting the notifications for when we're dropping, getting content out constantly. I'm going to be on the grind from here until the season starts and cruise from there. So thank you once again, and we'll talk next time. Peace.